Hey, everybody! Recovering and finally at home after OLHZN-13 today. It took us on a bit of a crazy adventure today, but it's back. It's safe and sound. Here's the payload is balloon. Whoa, too far. The balloon and the parachute. So was totally not expecting to get those back. Somebody said you look completely worn out. Is it that obvious? Definitely worn out. So yeah, we got to talk about stories and tell you what's going on. Let me see. I missed a bunch of comments while you guys were hanging out waiting for me. Uh, Alex Ziggyful waiting to hear how Tori wrestled Bigfoot. It wasn't quite that bad, um, but it wasn't good. It was definitely not good. Um, let's see. Oh yeah, Stubby said I was thinking it was going to be midnight for me. I think I saw your comment online that said it was gonna, or on Twitter maybe it said it was going to be midnight, and I was trying to figure out where you were from. I was like, I'm on the East Coast, so who's an hour ahead of me? Um, so yeah, definitely worn out. Hi Chris, thanks for hanging out here to come hear the recovery story. Oh man, I am beat, absolutely beat. So our landing predictor today, the flight went well. Main flight computer worked really well. Really had no issues with the main flight computer. Landing predictor, we got our skew T graph, the automatic tweeter. The skew T graph got sent out right when it was supposed to, and the landing predictor kicked in right away, right after balloon burst, and started doing somewhat accurate predictions. I'm going to have to look at it to see. The first couple predictions that it ran were way to the west. I mean, not crazy far like Saturdays. Saturdays was like I saw the predictions. I was like, yeah, there's no way that's happening. But today's the landing predictions. I was like, oh, this could actually be the landing site, and they kind of clustered around one area. And then as it got down, I guess the winds drifted it further east than the landing predictor was expecting. But the landing predictor did continually update, and I was actually at the somewhat landing site when the payload came down. So much so that I heard it come down. It was a super quiet area. I heard it land. I was watching my local APRS receiver, and I saw the altitude. I had no cell reception where I was. Absolutely zero. Couldn't even make a phone call. So it was. I just had to watch the local APRS, so I was getting GPS coordinates. I didn't know what those coordinates meant. I had to go drive somewhere where I had signal to figure out where it was. But I was getting signal from the balloon, and I was watching the altitude. Came down, 2,000, 3,000, 2,000, 1,700 was the final altitude we got. And just when I got that 1,700 altitude, I heard it in the distance into the trees. So I had to go out and get service and figure out what that last coordinate was for the landing. And luckily, I was able to find it relatively easy. But this landing site, this might have been one of the hardest recoveries we've had. So, of course, as the way it works, Saturdays was one of the easiest recoveries we've had. Today was one of the hardest recoveries that we've had. So this could not have been any more dead center in the block as far as into the woods. So there were, it was basically like a square. There were side streets, a street up top, street at the bottom, streets on the side. And this landing could not have been any more dead center in the middle of this. Like it was not close to any of the four roads surrounding it. Getting bit by mosquitoes, but this is kind of a cakewalk compared to earlier. Let's see. I noticed that you were in the worst spot. Yeah. So I got out of the car. I've got, I always carry like boots and pants and wind pants and a jacket in case we got to go into the woods. Kind of, somewhat prepared for this. I'm like, all right, let's see what we got. We had I got a big extension pole with it's like a tree trimmer that's got a big saw on the end of it. I grabbed that. That was going to be my walking stick, and also I might need it to get it down. And so I started hiking by myself into the middle of the woods here. It was about a 15-minute hike from the roadside out to where the payload was. Wasn't easy, but we got there. And I take a look up, and it's like, I don't know, 70 feet up in the tree. It's way up there. I'm like, oh, great. All right, so now we got to figure out how to get this thing down. And we got a new pneumatic air cannon that we put a projectile in, attached to a string. I tried that out a whole bunch of times, probably fired 10 or 12 shots of that, trying to get that. And actually, the pneumatic air cannon gun thing works well, but the problem is the string, really. The string was getting caught on everything. Every stick and every plant and I'd fire that thing up, and it would just come to a grinding halt and get caught on every stick or branch or fern that was in the area, and it wouldn't make it up to the payload. And then the ones that I finally got up there, it was pretty tough accuracy-wise to actually try to get it to where it was. So the pneumatic gun wasn't working so well. So it was a relatively small tree. It was maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches in diameter. Maybe it's a little bit larger than that. But decided, well, maybe I could cut it down with this saw thing. I got about 4 or 5 saws into that and was just exhausted, and I was like, oh, that's not happening. So then we moved on to the next idea. There were a couple other smaller trees, and it was a very mucky, muddy type area. And so one of the trees was kind of leaning over, and it was kind of in a lot of muck. So I decided basically I'm going to pull this tree down. Like right where it is, it's just going to, I think I can pull this thing down. And it was a little bit harder than I had hoped, but ended up trying to pull it down. I was hitting the payload and whacking the side of it, and it was like a piñata 75 feet up in the air. Whacking the side of this piñata, trying to get, all I want back is the box. I don't care about the parachute or the balloon. Like, usually I try to break the string and get the whole thing down, or just get the box down. And so that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to break the string or get it tangled in the tree where I could then yank it and then pull it down. Mike says you need a bigger air cannon. The air cannon I have is not too bad. I've not seen yours, Mike, but I don't know. In my front lawn where it's nice and there's no sticks and ferns and everything else, it'll fire pretty good distance up in the air, higher than any of the trees that I have here. But yeah, it was no good in the woods. I'd fire it, and it would just get caught in a stick or a thing, or I don't know. One time I was standing on the string, and it wasn't working out. So yeah, I'm whacking this thing with a piñata, and then I finally broke it loose, and it dropped, but it was still about probably 25, maybe 30 feet in the air. So it dropped maybe half the distance, went from 75 feet down to about 25 or 30 feet. So then I was excited. I was like, all right, we're getting somewhere. We're making progress. It was just out of reach for my tree trimmer. I couldn't get that up there. I was trying everything I could, trying to get a little bit of extra height. Couldn't do it. I tried to find another even cut down a smaller tree and see if I could reach it with that. That wasn't working. And then we started getting into danger territory. So I'm in the middle of the woods. I'm exhausted. I had some water with me, but I had gone through it all. And now I'm in the middle of the woods, like 85 degrees, lifting like heavy trees and yanking on stuff, and I'm getting exhausted, and I'm starting to get like lightheaded. I'm like, oh boy, like I do not want to pass out in the middle of the woods by myself. That would not be a good scenario. So I'm like, I was like, all right, let me just sit down and take a rest for a minute. I sit down, catch my breath, stand back up, and I'm like, all right, let's try this again. Let's see if we can make it happen. And like immediately I started getting a little more lightheaded. At this point I'm out of water, and I'm like, this is not good. I do not want to pass out here. So I decided to leave it. I was like, the heck, I'm going to leave it. We're going to walk back to the road. I was like, I knew I had more water in the car. So I left it. Hiked back, another 15 minutes back to the car. get some water, chill out for a second. And I drive down the road to the house that was, I don't know, maybe half a mile down the road. I happened to pass it on the way by, and there were a whole bunch of people standing out front. So I was like, well, what the heck? I'll just pull in here. And we'll see if somebody will come walk with me, just so that if I do pass out, at least there's somebody there to let somebody know that I passed out in the middle of the woods. So met this nice family, and this guy Len was, well, first I walk up and they see me pulling in, and they're like, who is this guy? What does he want to sell us? So I get out of the car, and like my shirt looks like I just jumped in the pool. Like I don't think there was a dry spot on my shirt anywhere. Like it literally looked like I just jumped in the pool and just got out, because I was just drenched, head to toe, absolutely soaking wet. And I'm walking up to these people like, hey guys, sorry for the appearance, but you're not gonna believe this. Excuse me. You're not gonna believe this, but we sent a weather balloon up with some cameras and some cool stuff, and it's stuck in the woods out there. I told them I spent a couple hours trying to get it down, and I was like, so I have a little bit of a weird request. Would anybody like to make a couple bucks and come out there with me, just so if I pass out that somebody knows that I'm out there? And so one of the guys, his name was Len, he was like, all right, I'll go with you. And so he was like, well, we could take my four-wheeler. You want to try that? So it was not easy getting out there. I was kind of skeptical that the four-wheeler would work, but we got his four-wheeler. It's a little side-by-side. And on the yeah, Alex said, yeah, weather balloon. That's a new one. Henry, get the gun. I'm pretty sure that's what they were thinking. Because like before we even left, like the wife of the guy that was gonna come with me, she was already back in the house, like looking us up on the computer. She came back outside like before we left and was like, she was like, yeah, I just looked up your guys' website. I just wanted to make sure that you were actually for real and not like a serial killer or something. So Len got his four-wheeler, his side-by-side, and we went out there, and it was hard going. It took us longer, actually, to get out there with the side-by-side than it was hiking, but it was a whole lot less work. So we were kind of up and down and over tree branches, and this thing that I don't even know what it was, but it was a beast. Because he was going over some gigantic tree branches trying to get through this and just running stuff over. And so he got us out about 3/4 of the way to the payload. And then I was like, all right, we couldn't find a way through anymore with the four-wheeler. So I was like, all right, why don't you turn it around, hang here. I'll walk in. Let me see if I can get it down, spend 20 minutes or so, and then I'll come back. He's like, all right. So I took off. I left. All right, why is my light's dying? I might have to end this soon because my little ring light here is dying, or I gotta move somewhere. I could probably plug it in actually. So I got some light. So what was I saying? So I walk in here. Hold on, let me plug this light in here just so we can. So you guys are still gonna be able to see me while I finish telling my story here. I gotta. Oh. Hold on, stay with me. Wait, I'm gonna take this off for a second. It's pretty dark. Nice night outside, so I'm gonna sit out here and tell the story. There we go. That's better. Okay. So now we got some battery on that. So I leave Len. He's got his he's got the four-wheeler, and I head out over to where the payload is. Already been here once. So I head out over there. I'm by myself again, but Len's back, not too far, like maybe a 5-minute walk over with the four-wheeler. And then, so now they also gave me a couple bottles of water while I was at their house. They were like, oh, I think, just like everybody else said, they were like, you look beat. So And this is probably me looking good compared to how I looked like, I don't know, maybe a couple hours ago. So yeah, that was like 7 o'clock Eastern time that I stormed in on the family there. So anyways, so I get back out there and I try the air cannon a couple more times. I tried my little tree thing that I was trying to haul it down with, and I'm whacking the snot out of it like a piñata, and it's just not budging. It's not going anywhere. And I try a couple more times, and now it's starting to get dark. It's like 20 after 8 or so, something like that. And I'm in a thick forest. Like I can barely see the sky. Canopy's so thick and dense. So it's sunset's like 8:30 or so, and about 8:20 it started looking pretty dark in the forest there. So I'm like, at this point I'm gonna give up. I'm gonna leave it, and we'll come back another day. I was like, let me give it my all here. I'm just gonna, I'm leaving after this, so I was kind of gently walking around, and I was finally like, the heck with it. I'm just gonna go for it. So my light's getting dark again. Is my battery dead? So I start whacking at it again, and I finally got it tangled in the tree that I was waving all over the place with it. And I got it tangled, and I just hauled that tree down with everything I could, and down came the payload finally, all the way down to the ground. And I got the payload, but it was still attached to like the parachute and the balloon, so I started pulling on that. I'm like, well, I better break this, and we'll just, goodbye parachute, goodbye balloon. And I start pulling on it and yanking it, and all of a sudden it broke free, and down comes the parachute, and down comes the balloon, so I got everything back. So yeah, moral of the story here is don't land in the forest, because that's not a fun time. But luckily we got it all back. I took a quick peek at the footage. Looks like we got some great video. I have not seen, so one of the things that's kind of a downside with our setup is we use our light down cameras in what's called dash cam mode. The nice thing is it makes it really easy to start up and start recording, because all you got to do is flip a switch, and as soon as the camera gets power, it automatically starts recording, so you don't have to push any buttons or anything like that before launch. So it's really awesome. But when you have a delayed recovery like this, once the SD card fills up, then it starts writing over the earlier files. So it loops around and starts recording over the beginning, and it definitely looped around. The question is how much did it loop around, or did we miss, or did we lose any footage? So there's a chance that we may have lost the beginning of the flight, like the actual liftoff. We may not have video of that any longer because it looped around. So it's a bit of a downside to our setup, but it does make it easier to launch. So I don't know. I've tried to increase the SD card size. We use a 32 gig SD card in the cameras. I tried to up it to 64 gigs, but the camera doesn't support 64 gigs. So that's a bummer. So we're kind of stuck with 32 gigs until I figure out a different solution for that. So I think we may have lost a bit of video from launch, but got a great shot of the balloon burst again, which was fantastic. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. It was, a lot clearer than it was on Saturday. So hopefully we got some good footage there. Yeah, and I see Gregorius just joined us. Yeah, so if you missed the beginning part, 70-foot tall tree again. It was up there quite a ways. Got it about halfway down. Had to go find help. Really, I just needed a babysitter so that if I pass out, somebody can call for help. That's all I really needed. Len kind of just sat in the he sat back there with the four-wheeler. I mean, he did a lot of work with that four-wheeler getting us out of there, which was awesome, fantastic, because just being able to save the work and the effort of not walking through that, the first 3/4 of the way there, that was a huge help. So thanks to Len. I know Len was. I'm gonna send Len some pictures there. He refused to take any of the money that I offered him, but he was a super nice guy, and he probably couldn't have done it without his help. I probably would have given up if he looked at me and said, "No, I'm not helping." So thanks, Len. Thank you very much for helping us. Oh, hello. Hey. All right. So what else was I going to say about it? Micro payload didn't work the whole flight, so that's not a surprise. Landing predictor, we got to look and see what happened. Just with the earlier predictions, they didn't come up quite right, but it did get pretty accurate by the time we got to, I don't know, 20 minutes before landing or maybe 15 minutes before landing. So still plenty of time to actually get under it. And I was pretty close to it when it landed. Just I wasn't in the forest with it. Let's see what. Oh, the other thing I was gonna say. Let's see. Yeah, thanks, Len, for helping. Oh, lost my light here. Hold on, bear with me. This is live production, high quality. The other thing I was going to mention, so I always pack, I started mentioning this at the beginning, I always pack like jeans, wind pants, long sleeve shirts, and boots so that if we do land in the forest. Well, so I get there and I'm like, oh, well, it's a good thing I packed all that stuff because now we're going to have to use it today. So I get all my clothes out and everything, and I look around, no boots. I left the boots at home. So I'm like, what? I got no boots to go in here. All I got are my sneakers on. Well, those sneakers are going right in the garbage. They're not going to make it because it was very mucky and muddy, and as much as I tried to keep them dry and step around, they just, by the end, especially right before I was about to give up the payload, I was like, the heck with it. I'm putting everything I got into it. They got so muddy and so mucky. I drove home barefoot afterwards because I was like, this is not gonna be good. So yeah, those sneakers are going right in the trash, and Tori's gonna buy new sneakers tomorrow. So I guess there's a plus. I'm gonna get myself some new sneakers tomorrow. But yeah, I gotta make sure to remember the boots next time. They would have been super helpful. Yeah, it was such a quick turnaround that I totally forgot that I put the boots inside. So that's it. There's the recovery story. So yeah, we went out. It took forever. Let's see. It landed at risk of running solo. Yeah, that's the problem when you're running solo is just yeah, you get into a tough recovery spot like this, and sometimes you need a helper. You need a checklist for clothes. It's actually on my checklist. I don't know how I missed it. The boots are on my checklist, but somehow I missed it. I don't know. I was in a hurry trying to get ready today for this because it was a quick turnaround. So there was a lot of water to the east of where it landed. Glad it didn't go in that. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, as long as it didn't go in the water, that's definitely a good thing. We don't want to land in the water. So I mean, in the end, this was definitely a very difficult recovery. I'm exhausted. I think my step counter has like almost 30,000 steps in for the day. So I missed the beginning of the stream. Was there a dehydration issue? Yes, there was a dehydration issue. So yeah, I'll kind of recap again for anybody that joined late. Payload landed in the 15-minute hike into the woods. So had to hike out there by myself. Hiked out there, got to it, and I'm like, all right, this is way up there. It took me a while. I'm trying to get it out with our air cannon, I'm whacking it with other trees like a piñata. I'm out of water, and I'm still going at it, trying to get this thing down, and start getting a little lightheaded, and I'm like, this is not good. I don't want to pass out in the middle of the woods by myself. So I tried a couple more times, and then I was like, I really got to get out of here. Like, this is not going to be good if I pass out. So So yeah, I had to head back to the car and get some more water, and that's when I went for help. Just figured like, hey, it doesn't hurt to ask. So I went and asked those people down the street, like, hey, anybody want to come come hang out with me in the woods for a little bit? Oh man, they probably thought I was so creepy. But eventually, once we got it back, I did. I showed them the payload. We got it opened up. Showed them some of the video, some of the raw video footage, and they were. I thought it was pretty awesome. So they were pretty excited to see all that, and they were like, "Well, I kept apologizing, like, oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Like, I can't, thank you very much for helping me. Thank you so much." Blah, and they were like, "Wow, this is a Memorial Day we'll always remember. We're gonna have stories to tell. This is not, this doesn't happen every day." So they were still pretty excited about it. But I did feel bad that I had to interrupt them, and I basically like, "Can somebody please come out in the woods with me?" Thank you to Len that came and helped me out in the woods with his awesome 4-wheeler. So, but yeah, pretty good flight. It should be really good photos and videos. I took a quick peek and it was great. Good thing they're not psycho, or you're not a psycho. Yeah, I know you run the risk of that, I guess, when. But yeah, luckily everybody was cool, at least, and I think I was. I don't know. They probably thought I was creepy, but they were pretty excited once I showed them all the photos and videos and everything else. So they liked it. Our payload took had a bit of a rough day. The micro payload obviously didn't work for launch time, but coming down, I don't know if you can here. Let me see if I can tilt this down a little bit. We've got like oh boy. The light's gonna fall down. Let me see if I can. Well, your comments are in my way. I can't see the screen. So here, this is the humidity sensor here. That kind of broke free. We'll have to get that remounted there. I don't know if you can see that. So that it's kind of dangling around. Whole bunch of the a whole bunch of the strings and stuff got tangled up coming down, so I had to cut them. So we'll have to rebuild some of the strings and stuff like that. But that's all super inexpensive stuff. A lot less expensive than if I lost the whole thing. So so yeah, for the most part, we got it all back. Everything's safe and sound and good to go. And even bonus, I was totally prepared to lose the parachute and balloon, but I got it back. So we got the balloon back, we got the parachute back, we got everything. Everything's intact, so we're good to go. And here's what I think I shared a picture of this on Twitter from the last flight, but this is what the balloon looks like when it comes back. It's all shredded and in pieces. It gets very stringy like this, which is kind of weird. And it's also the center of this is like a solid ball. Like if you squeeze this feels like a rock. Like it's a solid ball of latex in here. It gets so tangled up and everything on the way down. It's kind of crazy. And then you do have like some looser pieces here that are just like feel like a balloon. But there's almost always this. You get a whole bunch of the stringy bits, and then you get a big solid ball of latex here where it gets all tangled and stuff. So yeah, it's always cool to see the balloon come back. I like when we can recover the balloon too. It's just interesting to me. And I really like when we can recover the parachute, because then we can use it again. And I really like these are new parachute. Well, it's the same brand that we use, but apparently they're using new material. It's like a super bright orange, a lot brighter than the other parachutes that we had that are the same brand, same model, but they just must be using newer fabric for it. So there we go. We got it all back. Finally. Let's see. Gregoria said, yeah, I saw where you landed before I went to sleep. Oh, yeah. A random person asked you to join them into the woods. Yeah, I know, right? Thank goodness you are okay. I was actually worried seeing how dense that forest was on a satellite. Yeah, sorry, wrong way. I was pretty worried myself. Even going in there, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this all by myself. So yeah, I didn't really want to go into the forest by myself, but I was already there, and after looking into it, it was actually, it was relatively clear in the sense that it wasn't like a lot of high vegetation. That was a plus. It was a lot of like sticks and down trees and uh, a lot of climbing over stuff. Uneasy ground. I'm waiting for like a giant anaconda to bust out of the tree trunks, the fallen tree trunks, or everything. So yeah, that was not that. I was not happy with that, but yeah. So we did recover today after a lot of work. My arms were exhausted. Where was it supposed to land? It seems like there were a lot of forests all under the path. Yeah, well, it was the prediction. I'll see if I can put it. I'll definitely put it up tomorrow when I actually create the Overlook Horizon 13 page on our website. So I will. I'll put the predicted flight path versus the actual flight path on our websites. But the prediction had it much further south. So I'll have to see how that compared. Where it deviated there. But it was supposed to go further south than where it actually landed. That would have been a lot nicer. Somebody asked what the max altitude was. The max I saw was 101,000 feet on the APRS transmissions. I have yet to look at the actual data on the flight computer itself. So the flight computer will have the actual official maximum altitude because that records altitude every 1 second. The APRS is broadcasting like every 60 seconds, so there's always the chance that you get a broadcast of 101,000 feet and it could go to 102,000 and then fall back down before we get another broadcast. So yeah, I'll check out getting a notification. I'll check out what the actual maximum altitude was. Likely put out some of the photos and stuff tomorrow for this flight because I'm exhausted. My arms are killing me because I was really yanking away at that tree trying to get this thing down. I'm probably not going to be able to move them tomorrow. I probably have 10 bajillion mosquito bites because I had, I think, a whole swarm of mosquitoes around me. It was like a clan. They were all going to town. And I'm going to have to do a little tick check, make sure I don't have any ticks. I don't think I do, but I'm going to have to check that out. So there it is. The story of recovering in the deep, deep woods. I don't know which was worse, the swamp or this deep woods one. At least the swamp recovery, once we got to it, it was relatively easy to get down. This one I got to it relatively easily, but once I got to it, it was really difficult to get down. But we got it. She lives to fly another day. So that's it. Probably going to wrap this up here. A nice little 30-minute update. And I will... Yeah, you weren't alone on the swamp. That's true. I did have Mike's help at the swamp. This one I was all by myself. So you need to start a book, The Ups and Downs of Ballooning. That's a good name for a book, actually. I like that. Ugh, I just inhaled a bug. Wow, that was a big bug, too. Okay. So, on that note, I'm gonna end that. Hope the recording was intact. It was such a beautiful, clear day. There's definitely a lot of the recording that's intact. We may lose, like, the first, 5 or 10 minutes of the flight. But there was definitely a lot of video still intact, for sure. So yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here. I've got just about everything unpacked that absolutely has to be unpacked tonight, like the helium tanks and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm gonna go get some rest because I'm tired and exhausted. But yeah, check out tomorrow. We'll get some photos up and stuff tomorrow. So bug, yeah, I literally just like inhaled that bug. Pretty sure. I don't think it came back out. All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for hanging out here. I appreciate everybody being interested in the story. Bug snacks, yeah. Appreciate everybody being interested in the story, and we'll get some photos and such up tomorrow, and we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what we got. See what we lost or what we were able to keep. But I'm very confident that we kept most of it. We might lose just a little bit from the launch, but all right. Thanks, Gregorius. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. And don't forget the SpaceX launch for SES-12. We'll be live again for that. That got postponed to June 1st. So we'll do another live broadcast for that. So join us for the SpaceX launch June 1st. It looks like it's going to be. So, all right, everybody. Have a good rest of the night. And look for some posts tomorrow with hopefully some good photos and stuff. All right. Thanks, everybody. See ya. Let's see if I can end this, if I know how.